Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got an interesting episode for you guys this evening, and when I say I had to really hurry up and make this thing, I mean it. From the time I got the final confirmation to the time that I'm doing this voiceover was about 32 minutes in total. But a while ago I said the last Nintendo Switch emulator Ryujinx was definitely up as a risk for getting discontinued in one way or another, and as of today that has happened. But it's happened in a very interesting way, and I'm not quite sure what that means. We're going to kind of parse it apart in this video. But I said that I felt like Nintendo was going to do a full court press against emulation, and I 100% meant it, and unfortunately I was correct. Because Yuzu is dead, Suyu is dead, the Yuzu developers had to pay out a $2.4 million settlement to Nintendo and cease development and hand over everything else, and that's basically where we left it. Switch emulation was definitely at risk, and Nintendo was definitely looking around. Unfortunately today, Ryujinx joined the gang of Nintendo emulators that is no longer in active development. That means as of the recording of this video, there's nothing being made on Switch emulation fronts. If you go over to the Ryujinx GitHub page right now at 404 errors out, the page has been removed, but not on a DMCA takedown request, and that's going to be very relevant to this video. And again, this is still day 0, so I'm not 100% sure about everything, but there was a post from one of the developers put up on Ryujinx Twitter page talking about the fact that one of the lead developers was contacted by Nintendo and offered an agreement to stop working on the project, remove the organization and all related assets he's in control of. Now, we don't know what this offer means. You could read this in two directions. The offer could have been Nintendo saying, stop now or else we will try to financially ruin you. The offer could have been, we'll give you a bunch of cash if you just stop. I really don't know what the answer to that question is, so I can't really say foundationally one way or another how this actually happened. But of course, knowing what Nintendo did to Tropic Haze, the developers of Yuzu, taking them to court, suing them, and getting that settlement, I'm sure it wasn't really a situation where anyone wanted to really fight Nintendo on any front. Because the reality is, even if Ryujinx is 100% clean room reverse engineered, which it seems like it is, do they have the willingness and the pockets to actually go up against Nintendo in open court and try to prove their case as to being right? Obviously, with Yuzu, there was definitely some issues outside of that clean room reverse engineering, and that's why you see that settlement right there. But basically, since the start of the year, like I predicted last year, Nintendo has taken a full court press against anything emulation. They're going after channels that talk about it, they're going after emulators, they're going after pretty much anything they can possibly think of, including Palworld, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. You'll see here that Ryujinx has been taken down after that settlement was reached. And this is hot on the heels of Nintendo filing a patent lawsuit against Pocket Pair, the parent developer of Palworld. We went over all that as well. So Nintendo's basically taking a multi-front approach to going after anything they don't like. They're using patent lawsuits and trying to claim patent infringement on Palworld right now. They've been going through with a ton of different DMCA takedown requests on any mods and any content they don't want online. They are suing emulator makers and getting a settlement against Yuzu for $2.4 million, and now they've made some sort of backroom agreement with one of the developers of Ryujinx to cease development of that actual emulator, remove all the source code from online, and basically pretend like it never actually happened. But again, I do not know what that deal is. It's quite possible that Nintendo just threatened somebody and said, if you don't stop, we will make your life a living hell. Again, it's possible that Nintendo offered some sort of financial compensation to stop development. They could have even actually tried to buy some of the source code to use it on Switch 2 in case they needed a little bit of assistance in backwards compatibility, but that guess would be probably not. As we go through some of the Palworld patents here, the real takeaway is that Nintendo is going to use every single avenue at their disposal to stop everything they do not like, whether or not they have a competent or concrete legal case against them. And in the case of Ryujinx being clean room reverse engineered, they really probably didn't have much of a case, so that's why this deal has been made. And this is nice that the news came out today, because only like 2 hours ago did anyone notice that the Ryujinx GitHub repo was taken down, and trust me, my inbox was absolutely filled with messages on Twitter and Discord, and even a few emails from viewers. And I always appreciate people keeping me comprised of things, because I was capturing some Half-Life footage while this actually happened. And again, going through the Suyu emulation here, this is just something that is going to continue to occur. Basically, Nintendo is trying to scare people off from ever approaching emulation, especially of their modern systems. They don't want other people to think they can step in and take over the work from an emulator that took its source code down. And even though the source code's been removed, of course it's probably preserved 101 places on the internet. It doesn't mean that it went missing, it just means that the developers took down the official repo. The same way that when games are moved from Vimm's Lair, it's not like you couldn't find them anywhere. But basically what Nintendo is shouting from the rooftop is that if you do anything we do not not like, we will use every avenue at our disposal to make sure we stop you, whether that's mods for games you've already purchased, whether that's emulation for old systems or new systems, whether it's any sort of other thing that Nintendo would take umbrance with. They are going to stop you, and they're going to do it with every single tool at their disposal. They want to dissuade anyone from trying to come and take up the mantle and continue the progress of any of these projects whatsoever. And I totally understand their defensiveness over current gen systems. People make games, they should be purchased at retail, the developer should be able to earn a living, and no, you shouldn't be able to go grab Switch games and play them however you want without originally purchasing a copy of the game. But if you purchase a copy of the game, you should be able to play it how you would like. And one of the developers on Twitter went through and talked about some of the stuff that you're not going to be seeing, including a working port to iOS. And I said in a previous video, I really thought that Apple opening up emulation ecosystems on iOS was going to make Nintendo very unhappy, because they saw it as a whole new host of systems that could and would actually emulate their hardware. And they even were working on an Android port, but they hadn't yet released that. So it seems like Ryujinx had a lot of irons in the fire, and a lot of things they were going to be working on in the future that you're just not going to see anymore. And it is kind of fun just to get a little bit of a glimpse of what was going on behind the curtain with the developers and some of the new features they were going to add in. But that's really much of a bummer. Even the metal backend for Vulkan here was something that was going to be coming to Ryujinx, and I'm sure in a couple years you'll see someone else attempt this. But basically what Nintendo really wants you to know is that you can't do anything without them not noticing, and right now it is the worst possible environment to work on anything Nintendo related, whether that's fan games, ROM hacks, emulation, any sort of hardware reverse engineering. It is just a crappy time. Because again, when we talked about the Yuzu lawsuit, I fully well said that Nintendo was looking to make a point. They were getting a big judgment against someone they were going against, and that was setting the tone for every other person working on Nintendo emulation to know that they were at risk of a settlement or even a financial decision that would absolutely cripple them, because I'm pretty sure the developers of Ryujinx probably don't have $2.4 million. Additionally, Nintendo got all of the different domain names and paperwork and all of the code behind Yuzu, so if they do want to potentially use that in the future for Switch emulation 10-15 years down the road from now, they can in fact do that. What you're seeing here with all of these different articles from previous videos is that Nintendo doesn't want this to happen anymore. And trust me guys, I'm not trying to take a big victory lap here, but I said full well a year and a half ago that every single thing that has come to pass will come to pass, and here we are today. And it's one of those situations I would have liked to have been proven wrong and not been able to predict this, but that's what happened. And again, there's not been a single case that's been decided in a court of law, so no precedent has been set. And this is what Nintendo likes. They can remove things they don't want from the internet, and they can make deals, they can make settlements, and they don't actually have to see the inside of a court to ever find out whether or not any of this stuff is actually within their legal right. And again, because we all know full well that the Switch 2 is coming very, very shortly, this is the situation which we're in. Nintendo is going to absolutely vigorously pursue any single thing on the internet they do not like, whether it's videos, whether it's tutorials, whether it's emulation, whether it's hardware mods, anything they don't think you should be doing, they are going to go after you. And that is just a bummer, because again, Ryujinx was the last standing Nintendo Switch software emulation platform out there, and you'll see today there was some sort of deal made. And again, I can't really confirm what that deal is. I'm sure details will come out and I will update the video when that happens, but one of two things either happened. A threat so big was made that they decided to throw in the towel and give up, or an offer so big was made that they decided to push the chips in and cash out. Those are your two options there. But today is an absolutely huge bummer when it comes to software emulation and video game preservation, because the last Nintendo Switch emulator in active development has ceased to exist and is not going to get any new updates. That doesn't mean that the emulation software isn't available to download. You can check it out if you want. It can't really go away, but at this point in time it's not going to get any more updates, and it seems like Nintendo has gotten everything they've wanted and more. But short of that, we are done. It was a quick video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.